Well, here we are.
Welcome back, Movie Schmovie.
Hello.
Episode 225. Is that right?
225. That's correct. The last one was 224, so that's next.
I have completely, unironically, taken your spot as the guy who's amazed at how many episodes we've done.
Yeah, look.
You used to be genuinely shocked, and then you became jaded, and then we teased you about it, and now every time we say the number, I without even thinking about it, go, woo, boy.
And
the number's actually higher,
right?
right? I mean, because like we got all these half mini episodes.
I know.
Right.
I don't even know. We need to do the math on that, see how many there actually are. I guess we could look at iTunes.
Or we could just ask like someone who's a fan and a listener
Yeah.
to sound off on maybe they keep a tally.
Yeah, I'm sure there is somebody out there.
Lauren, do you know how many extra episodes we've done? How many bonus episodes we've done?
I was unaware of this quiz portion of the show, but
That's
no.
why it's a pop quiz. Don't you remember those from school?
Lots more.
But yes, 225. And we are here to talk about a subject that is near and dear to our hearts because we love well, you're a recent convert
You've grown onto it.
to horror films,
yeah.
Ronald,
Just
but most of us
discovered
here
them.
on this podcast are sort of horror
Not
buffs.
super recent, just relatively recent in your life. It's been a good 7 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
You've opened
slow
up.
burn for you.
Really, the start of Movie Schmovie kind of opened you up a little more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like
I would not have
Insidious.
seen
I
as
remember
many.
recording Insidious with you at your mom's house, and it was
Yeah.
like, I'm not really into horror movies.
Yeah,
I
I
don't see horror movies.
If Insidious was a representation of horror films, then
He wouldn't be.
Oh, you didn't like that movie?
no.
Really?
You don't remember that from episode 001 of Movie
I
Schmovie?
mean, I
Insidious.
guess it's been a long, that's a long way back.
I'm not a fan of that
I
movie
kind of thought you were
series.
going to be re-listening to the whole catalog before coming
You
in
didn't get
here.
that text? You had to actually listen to all of the horror-related episodes?
Wow, that's a lot of work.
That's the pop quiz at the end. I've already said too much.
It's a lightning
I'll
round
still
of
pass it.
questions.
But I'm John,
Ron.
Lauren.
I'm Steve.
and this is the best kills, favorite kills.
I say favorite.
Favorite.
It's kind of...
My list is favorite.
see,
I
I
went with favorites.
I don't know that I could think of all the kills, so that I can't really... I know there's something I'm forgetting that I might have ended up putting on this list. But for me, these kills are all iconic in some way or another.
Sure.
What about for you, Ronald? Were these your favorites, or just the ones you think of as the best, the biggest?
Whenever I think about horror films and over-the-top kills, these are some of the ones that come to my head.
So you went with over the top.
Over the
you
top.
went with memorable,
memorable.
what
and
was
over-
that kind
Yeah.
of thing? Okay.
The ones that make you go, oh my God.
You said it out loud.
Yeah.
Oh my
You were that guy in the theater saying it. Like, oh, there's Ronald back there
I was attached
watching
to that
horror
character.
movie number 4.
I like the way you said, "Oh," like as though you didn't realize it was a horror movie, and then people might.
It had like a question
"Oh,
mark at the end of it.
Well,
The stakes have risen.
did you have any difference in your mind, or have any like a crossroads where you were deciding the difference between deaths and kills? Do you know what I mean? Like there are deaths. There are some deaths that I don't know that I could call kills. So I did have. There were a few things that I thought, man, that's a big one. But when I thought about what caused it, I was like, this doesn't really feel like it's a kill.
I
in
don't
the
think that
strictest
came into
sense.
my criteria. I feel like all of the ones that my top 3 on the also rans are like all kills.
Yeah.
At the hand of
How'd it
something, someone.
And
or
that was another
whatever, or
thing,
some
at the
force.
hand of something, of some
Yeah.
force. I was thinking a lot about, I try to stick to slashers, because it
Yeah.
seems to me when you think kills, that's what you think, is you think of like there'll be a slasher character that over a series of movies racks up a body count, and then each kill is a little bit different.
Sure.
But it was hard for me to do that in good faith. There was a few kills that I wanted to put in there that I'm like, well, these aren't really slasher killers. And I didn't know, did you all take that same broad view, or did you stick to slashers, or...
I don't
What
think
did
they-
Siri say?
Siri
How
said
did she feel about it?
She says that slashers.
What's the weather?
It is cold as shit outside.
You're going to pull a dish now?
All of my 3 are slashers. However, some of my honorable mentions are not.
Okay.
But I did have criteria. I specifically did not pick anything from Saw or Final Destination.
Oh.
Okay.
Because I felt like that was like, they're all so like creative, over the top, like I didn't want to do those.
Okay.
So do you look down on that? Like the way you said creative, you kind of sound like you were
No. I still like those movies sometimes, but I felt like those
Lauren
are
likes all
those,
kills,
those
Steve.
are
Don't get her
yeah.
wrong.
If it's
any
death.
any gore is
Yeah.
fine. No, but I mean, I don't know. I just felt like they're all over the top. So it's like,
Right.
I mean, there's a couple probably from like Final Destination I could have picked.
Because I would almost say like some of the ones that stick with me are some of those Final Destination things. Like in the real world, like I have trouble getting behind.
I know exactly which one he's talking about. The log.
Yeah,
truck.
like a truck hauling tree trunks.
Yes.
I have a problem with that.
I've always had a problem with that, and that scene just gives you like
because
every time
I get behind
anybody
one,
who doesn't have a problem to that,
Yeah.
like, watch this scene and you'll see why the rest of us are like.
There's no doubt it's my turn when I'm
Yeah.
behind that truck,
Yeah.
so I have to get away.
Do you think about like, oh, I just put my head down?
Right.
You start thinking about your
Nope.
exit strategy.
I just
I
stay
move
away as
away.
far away as possible.
According to Final Destination rules, though, getting your head
would
down
still-
just means that you're going to hit a bump and you're going to like poke your eye out on the gear shift or
Yeah.
something like that.
So
you know?
weird. Yeah, those.
I mean, I was just curious. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those films on my list, but that's interesting because, like, there are so many. Like, those films have so many kills, and they're all kind of like one-upping the next. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's interesting. That like, I feel like they've kind of affected me in certain ways. Like, specifically in the Final Destination movies. Like, the movies may not be good as they go on in the franchise, but like, there are still some pretty like crazy kills. Like you're talking about like your criteria, Ronald, of the like wow factor of some of them. Like they seem like those kinds of kills to me. So
Yeah, there are the big moments.
Yeah,
then there are the ones
exactly.
that stick with you, and then there's some that are noteworthy because they're so sudden. I did notice there's a whole lot of reasons why I thought of certain kills, and sometimes it's just I don't want to be that person, and other times it was like, wow, that was a great movie moment when that happened, and it really punctuated a scene. And sometimes it is inventive. Sometimes it is that someone figured out a way to kill someone with, you know, a tape dispenser and a
right.
fingernail clipping or whatever.
Right. So who's going first?
I don't know. Does the guest want to go
You guys
first?
are all looking at me.
I wasn't.
You did for a second.
Peripherally, you saw me go out.
Yeah, I can go first. I'm going to do the one that made me bug Steve to do this episode because it is the closest to my heart. It's from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, The Vane Puppet, which...
Lauren and I just high-fived.
We
because that's one of my
high-fived.
picks, too.
Is it one of your picks,
Yes.
really? Okay, I love The Vane Puppet. Like, I don't know why. I don't even know when I fell in love with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 specifically, but that is definitely my favorite one. I mean, I love the first one for sure, but like of all the sequels, the third one's my absolute favorite. There was like several kills in that movie I could have totally picked.
Oh yeah.
Like the two others in particular. But I just love the thought of some poor soul walking down a hospital hallway with some maniacal figure using their own veins as like a puppet to get them to jump off of a roof. It's just...
It's so
amazing.
It's nasty and it's mean.
It's
and
mean.
This
It's
guy
mean.
hasn't done anything to deserve this.
Yeah.
He's in this institution, and I
Yeah.
think we're meant to believe that he's probably tried to cut his wrist before. It just seems like a particularly nasty death for a suicidal character to do something involving slashing their wrists and then puppeteering them with their veins. I mean, everything about that is just so memorably nightmarish and nasty, and it's so drawn out. And I really think it's in the movie at that point. It's early. It's there to say, this is nasty. Do you know what I mean? It's here to say this is a mean movie. Freddy is not nice. Look at this nice young boy who makes puppets, and look how he's being treated. So yeah, everything about it was memorable, gross, sad.
There's so many. Yeah, that was gonna. I mean, I'll just piggyback. That was gonna be one of mine, but knowing she would pick that, I didn't pick it, so I could give some attention to another one. But that actually is my favorite nightmare film, Dream Warriors.
I
Period.
agree.
The first one's great. I just think Dream Warriors is like the character goes to the level where whether you like the Freddy Krueger he becomes in the third one, you either do or you prefer like the more of the character from the first two, mainly the first one.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have as many of the one-liners and the welcome the prime time bitch and like all these like zingers that Freddy Krueger opens. And 3 is really where you get that, and just the idea of the crew of people coming together with their superpowers, like to battle them or to battle him. But yeah, just like you mentioned, John, like the puppets he makes, and even like that stop motion sequence with the puppet, like when that all happens, it's just an awesome scene. And we got to go through it.
Yeah.
Like a couple years ago.
I literally like grabbed Steve by the arm and screamed like "Vane Puppet" because it was like right in front of us, and I don't know why I didn't expect it. Like I don't know. I guess I just assume other people don't like love it as much as me. But like you're saying, you would have picked it, and you would have picked it. So
it was the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. It wasn't last year; it was the year before, or 2 years before.
2 years ago. Yeah.
So yeah, it was like 2015, like when we went, and it was a Freddy vs. Jason house. So like they had the iconic moments from each of the characters, and one of the awesome set pieces that they put together was the Freddy vein puppet sequence, and it was really fucking cool. Especially knowing that like we both like love that scene, and that like they even identified it as like an iconic Freddy kill was really cool. But yeah, that's a great sequence. Yeah. I'll go next. I just on the Nightmare on Elm Street love. My first pick is actually the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and
You gonna say what I think you're gonna say?
it's the Johnny Depp kill scene. Did you pick that? Yes. Okay, good. So then we got a cross table high fives.
Yeah,
let's go do ours. But yeah, the sequence with is it Glenn? Glenn is Johnny Depp's character. The whole movie just kind of like Nancy having this boyfriend that's like pretty supportive, but you're kind of like, why is he more aware of what's going on? And he's like kind of this.
He doesn't seem to realize he's in a movie where people are dying.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Or what's happened to people around them prior to it. But just the whole sequence of like, you know, him falling asleep to, is it the national anthem? Like in this, and the TV goes static and Freddy's upstairs.
Yes,
apparently.
Freddy's upstairs.
He's walking on his hands, his claws. Just the visual of that sequence was like, I just remember it like just rocking my world when I first saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was younger. Saw it when I was way too young, for sure. But I mean, I thank that because it's like my love of horror is from that movie among a couple other ones. But yeah, just the visual, the music, the score of when the blood shoots onto the sequence, onto the ceiling in that sequence, and the mother coming in and seeing him, and you kind of sort of seeing like part of him in the sheets, and it's just like a brutal sequence. And
it's
like,
surreal too. It's like if you were looking at an image or a scene to be sort of almost like a cartoonish commentary on American slasher films or violence in movies or something. The notion of someone being sucked into a bed and then just a geyser of blood coming out. I mean, it's a bold choice, and I guess it plays around with that dream imagery notion of that. So it's unique. Like you don't really see anything bad happen to the guy.
Yeah, I mean, you just see like a claw coming out of a.
Right.
I just think that's like an amazing sequence. It's visually like stamped into my brain anytime I think of like horror movie kills. I think of the blood shooting out of the bed. I think of him scream like that young Johnny Depp scream being pulled into the bed and the TV kind of going down with him. Just with so much happening in that sequence.
I think also there was some part of us that was watching Johnny Depp kind of become a star. Yeah. Because like he wasn't big yet, but if you saw that movie, you were like, this guy's cool. I like this guy. And of course now we've gotten sick of his shit. Yeah. But
it's kind of.
But back then when he became famous, I remember being a horror fan. It was kind of fun being able to say, well, yeah, we've known about Johnny Depp for a while. He got sucked down into
a lot of them. They get a lot of their starts in horror films. But yeah, so the Glenn kill and Nightmare on Elm Street.
So when we get trumped on a pick, are we going to throw out another thing out there, or are we going to?
I mean, you could. I'd say you would add more to hers if you wanted to say anything else about the puppet.
Okay.
Well, and then we can throw more out at the end if there's like also rans or whatever.
I think I said enough about poor Philip Anderson and his puppet veins, so we can move on to Ronald. But your pick would have been.
It would have been. Yeah, that was
Johnny
my first
Depp.
pick.
So that was a short round.
I like how quick round one went.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys say your next picks first in case there's overlap, and that way we can get shut up.
We can stick with the order.
Okay.
Let's not get too confusing. Let's not make it mathematically.
Okay.
I like math.
Yeah.
Although it hasn't treated the show very well. We try to do math.
Lauren?
Which one I want to go to next, though? Should I do the one that possibly Steve could pick, and then I would mess him up, or should I do the one that I pretty much know
mess me
Steve
up.
didn't
I'd
pick?
still say something, and then we go on to John.
All right, I'm going to do it then. The movie that when I was finally old enough to experience horror, according to my mom, not my dad, who would not let me watch shit, but my mom did let me go see Scream in theaters in secret. I could not tell my dad, and I love the Drew Barrymore death. It is brutal, especially now watching it as a mom. Like, can you imagine walking out back and Henry hanging from a tree? Like, that's the worst thing you could think of. Like, walking into your house, clearly something has happened, and then you can hear your daughter's like last breaths on a phone, and then there she is right outside. Her insides on the outside.
Yeah,
like,
it's horrific, and again, just like I was saying about the Nightmare on Elm Street death, the vein death, it's sad. It's like what happens to this person is stressful and traumatic, and you see her go through this terror before she faces the actual violence. You know, so it's that opening was that really got that series off to a big start, I think, with people, because that opening felt so classic. Like the staging of it, the use of the phone call, the trivia, all that stuff was something new at that time.
I think I also picked that as one of my 3, but just to add a little bit, that's probably the most iconic horror scene for me, like in all of my horror movie opinions. I think when Scream came out in 1996, it kind of changed the game for what the horror genre was doing at that time. On our last podcast, when we talked about Candyman, we talked about how when it came out in 92, like, you know, film companies were trying to find a new slasher flick, a new horror franchise, whatever. It was an attempt to do that. And, you know, and 4 years after that, Scream comes out and kind of does an entire send-up of the entire genre of a slasher film. And the most amazing
kind of
thing,
messed up the genre for a long time, actually, as far as being able to do a sincere version of it. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, I my opinion is that it needed that. At
No,
that
I think
point
so.
In the
No, when I
genre.
say messed up, I mean it just kind of, if you had if your plan was to have let's get some teens out in the woods and let's kill them with a slasher. If you had a movie that was like that was scheduled to come out after Scream, you seemed
for
very
sure.
old hat. You know?
No doubt. But the most marvelous thing about the Scream opening for me is the entire misdirect that led into it with anything that the movie was doing to market itself. Yeah. I just can so clearly remember like being so jazzed about seeing that film, and everything was Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
The poster is Drew Barrymore. Like Nev Campbell's like a small character and like next, billing or whatever. Opening on such a strong, like she really exerts like this confidence, and like the character is like very, very sure of herself when she starts taking the calls, and like when it starts to get into the trivia, like you can see her kind of not being sure like where the call is going or what the call is anymore. And I just think that just the balance of the tone of the calls, the tone of her confidence,
The Jiffy Pop,
like the geography of the house when she starts moving through the rooms and looks out the back and sees Steve, and you're guessing like what does that have to do with this, and how did he get involved? And I mean, Scream's one of my favorite movies ever. It's probably my favorite horror movie ever. And I mean, that sequence, is just masterful. I think that anybody going and seeing that in theaters, and the reason that movie caught on and became a huge hit and created a franchise, is because you immediately realized you did not know what you were watching. You thought you know who the heroine of the film was. You thought you knew that she would survive this and the movie would be him coming to get her still. But like, the killer wins immediately. And you realize that the rules of a horror film, the rules of a slasher film are like out the window. And then you immediately are dropped into this town who are reacting to this attack, this murder. And then you meet your real final girl. And it's fucking great. I love Scream so much. And that's like one of my favorite sequences of a movie. Not even horror, really, now that I say it out loud. Favorite sequence of any movie I've ever seen is the Casey death.
It is, it's iconic for sure.
Yeah.
Anything to add about that, Lauren?
I don't know. I feel bad that I said it first because you're so passionate.
No, I mean, it's fine. I'm glad that we both said it. I mean, we bonded over horror films as friends. And I mean, like, we talk about it. We're going this weekend to Halloween Horror Nights again as a group of friends. I mean, it's like something that matters to us. So don't feel bad at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you said everything that I was feeling about it. Definitely, like, one of those things, like you said, like, not knowing that when you see it for the first time, which I guess everybody by now hopefully has seen Scream, but newer generations probably won't realize how famous Drew Barrymore was back then, so they won't realize how big of a deal it was for her to be like, what? But even, sometimes do you ever watch anything now that you've seen like so many times, and like the tone of it, like you almost feel like, oh, they're going to make it. You know what I mean? And they're not because you've seen it, but just totally. Like that was one of those things where when you first see it, like, obviously she's going to be fine or whatever. Like, I remember when I first saw it, it was not until after it cut away that I'm like, oh, she's not going to live through that. Like, she's done, like even...
Or it's not like a nightmare.
Right.
It's like not like a flash, a daydream or a bad thing that she just think... Yeah, totally felt the same way.
I remember feeling that way. I recently rewatched some of the Mission Impossible movies, and the first one begins with him out there with the team that gets wiped out,
obliterated.
And casting Emilio Estevez as one of those guys was so brilliant because it got you to thinking, "Oh, Emilio Estevez is going to be like Third Banana in this movie." Oh no, he's not.
Spike to the face on top of an elevator.
There were a lot of grisly deaths, speaking of that, though, that did not fit into our horror category. We might need to do a best kills non-horror
edition.
Because some of the biggest, most iconic moments that are surprising like that, I realized, they occur in movies that aren't horror movies, and so you're not expecting it. I think the other thing that's interesting, you were saying about people today maybe not realizing how famous Drew Barrymore was, I think that scene also would lose some of its punch for a modern audience, because now that is a famous scene where someone gets killed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The likelihood that someone might have seen that clip before they see the movie seems high now. Yeah. And so I do think
and the line, like the "What's your favorite scary movie?"
Yeah, right.
And like the voice. I mean,
that was all very surprising at the time.
Yes. And I remember loving that opening on another level, just being a fan of horror. Because you're going along with the questions and you're like, answer, got that.
You're thinking maybe I could survive.
Yeah. Would I survive this? Yeah. Just.
Well, that's what the Jamie, what's his name?
Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy. Yeah. That's the whole Jamie Kennedy character. The brilliance of that was that and now that again feels like a cliche to have a character who's too aware of the world they're in. But at the time, that was such a stroke of genius. And the things they pointed out were legit. That's the other thing. The thing about splitting up, the thing about I'll be right back, all that stuff. We all sat there watching movies saying that stuff. So that movie, it really was like a horror buff's dream to have Scream kind of be such a big hit. Yeah. So. Well, you love that movie so much that I kept feel kind of funny. My next choice is a movie that is like, I don't even particularly like this movie. I know I've seen this movie all the way through maybe once on HBO or something, but all I know is that the opening of this movie is one of the best surprising kills on its ghost ship.
It's on my also ran.
There's a party on a cruise liner, and there's people dancing on the deck, and there's a woman performing a song, and it's this opulent picture of like, these are well-off people, and they're having this great time, and then someone, tightens a wire. It's a little unclear at that point in the movie about what's going on, but there's a wire that gets tightened across the edge, across the deck of the ship, and it just goes through everybody really fast to the point where it's seconds later, people are starting to realize they've been hurt. And so you see every combination of, someone's clothes fall down first and then their top slides off. Yeah. You see other people, you see blood oozing out of a guy's pant leg. I mean, all these little subtle clues that everyone just got sliced in half.
Cut off at the jaw.
By a wire.
Yeah.
And then you gradually pull back and you see this entire crowd of people. There's a woman who's been cut off at the waist and she's reaching over and trying to pull her legs back onto her body. And you mentioned the little girl is actually dancing. There's a little girl who's below the level of the wire, so she survives. But she's looking...
I feel like I vaguely remember that. I remember seeing this movie, but I don't remember fully seeing this movie. But when you said little girl, I know exactly
she's
what you're
dancing
about.
And looking at everybody, and you're seeing it kind of from her point of view.
Yeah,
and then the guy she's dancing with, we see that he has had the slice go through his face. And it's before they had all the CGI stuff, so there's not as much you seeing the open wound, but it's just cleverly staged because it's you just see those body parts sliding and then you gradually get what's going on. And I remember watching it the first time, and similar to what you were saying about Scream, it was just such a shock that this movie started off with this scene. And it's a little sad that that's pretty much it for that movie. That it has other moments that might be kind of creepy, but there's nothing anywhere close to the cleverness.
So don't watch it. Just watch the beginning.
I would say, go to YouTube and
gotcha.
say opening
scene
to Ghost Ship. No, it's not. It's not. It's
maybe
that scene is so good. That scene is so good.
Maybe I stopped watching it then. Maybe how old is it? At least 10 years.
2002.
Okay, so maybe I started watching it and I was like, oh, this is cool, and then was like, oh, this is crap.
Yeah,
that could have totally happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like where Scream is such a great opening sequence, and the movie, continues to get better and ends so strong. That's an example of the best movie. The best part of the movie is the first 5 minutes, and then it's just all downhill from there.
Got it.
But a really cool opening, mass kill. Mm-hmm. The whole lore around why this ship is haunted is this mess.
Yeah. Everybody died at once in a horrific way. Yeah. That was also creative and clever and kind of funny, even though we haven't really talked much about what's in our hearts and what's wrong with us, that we enjoy watching these scenes in these movies. But I like that there's so much at play in horror. I think we've talked about this before with the effects and the photography and the staging, and so much about the way that it's shot can affect it. So I do think that when you've got a really well-made sequence like that, that they must have known when they were working on it, okay, we've got something really good here.
For sure.
Do you ever find out who put the wire there?
You see it becomes part of the story. That someone, you're right.
I don't know why I care.
Well, no, I actually cared because I was like, if this was a boating accident, it doesn't belong on my list. It's not a kill, but there is a person or persons behind it.
Got it.
So,
Ghost Ship seems like it was a movie that was based on a ride in a. It's like one of the only movies I'm like, this feels like you can't tell
a ride where they cut you in half.
You can't tell that pirate. You can't tell that Pirates is just a movie that's made from a ride.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
Ghost Ship feels like it's a sequence
should.
that would be on a wall as you go through a ride.
Yeah.
It's so generic. It's my turn.
Yeah.
yep.
So a French movie, I used to talk about it a lot. Came out 2003. High Tension, one of my favorite movies. It's a weird movie with a cold open, but there's like a scene that involves some stairs, a piano, and an innocent person, and it's a strange kind of first death to the movie because you don't know the stakes in it at all. You don't know what's going on at first because it is a very, very cold open. Mm-hmm. And then this person loses their head as a result of this piano and this man falling in a weird way. And it is a strange, strange death that I'll never forget. I always think about it.
I remember parts of that movie, but for some reason I don't remember that death.
That's like the first one where it starts to be like, oh, this random guy that looks like another scary composite of a bunch of characters is going to kill a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a cool movie.
No, that was a really well-made movie.
Yeah, with a cool twist to it. And that death really sets the tone.
Are you a reader at all? Will you read a book?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I know some people don't read.
Yeah,
some
I
people
get
are
it.
like more
Yeah,
podcasty movie. Yeah. Okay, so there's a book by Dean Koontz called Intensity, which I swear up and down that High Tension had to have been based on this book in some way because so I haven't read the book or seen the movie in quite a few years, but the book I've reread like probably 3 times, and it there's so many similarities down to like the layout of the house.
Oh, wow.
And the biggest difference is the end, so I'm not going to tell you anything, but you should read the book just to see if you think, I personally think it's like a lot of similarities, and I've never been able to find anything to say yes 100% that was an inspiration.
There's actually, I knew you were going to say that, and there's a note I saw on their wiki page that when the movie came out, apparently people were noting the comparisons to Intensity.
Really?
Yeah, and that the director acknowledged like reading the novel and being aware of the similarities, but then Dean Koontz said, like, I never pursued legal action because like he hated the movie and he felt that like association by winning a lawsuit. He hated High Tension. So like the association of winning a lawsuit would be like, oh, this movie is based on my book. This book is great. This movie is a piece of shit. To him. But you always mention that when we talk about that. But yeah, I don't read books.
That's really cool.
That's why I asked if you read books.
Right.
I don't fucking read books.
He'll you will.
don't even
You're
listen
just
to 'em?
extremely selective.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it takes a lot.
Yeah, I work at a book publisher, but I don't read books unless I'm really pressured to, or just like hear amazing things about a book.
I know I've been friends with him for how long now? 2006-ish. So what? 12 years. Okay, so I know 2 books that he's read. 2. 12 years. No, that's like the books he's read in the time I've known him.
Whatever. I don't read, dude.
It and The Strain. That's the only 2 that I know you've read.
That's it. Well, look, there's nothing wrong with that.
Might have been the only 2.
Anyway.
I feel like you read a lot of articles.
Tons of articles.
Yeah.
Dude. Tons of articles.
So aware,
They add up to at least 10 books.
So with reading, honestly, I know people that don't read, and when I ask them why they don't, it's a little bit like asking one of my friends who loves biking why they don't watch more television or something, where it's like, because you are saying, why don't you like to be mad at every interruption and irritated by every noise and require silence and like a meditative space that's far away from everybody so you can sit and spend hours upon hours, going into your imagination. I mean, I find that at this age, wanting to read is really just pointing out how much I am annoyed by people.
Yeah.
Like I sit down with a book, it's like
accurate,
because you really need like a few hours to kind of
retreat.
melt together, and
Totally.
especially having a kid and being busy with your life and stuff, the time to just sit there and read, you really feel like this is selfish. Where are you with reading? Do you find it boring, or do you?
I find it boring.
You find it boring.
To be honest, yeah.
Even like Audible?
It would keep me awake. I do listen. I actually.
Oh,
I
He
haven't,
listens to books.
I
yeah.
haven't read books, many books recently,
Yeah.
but I listen to books on Audible or audiobooks like way more often.
I just feel like I can never catch up on anything. Like there's books that I want to read. There's TV shows that this one's telling me to watch.
Yeah.
I have to try to watch things with my husband. I have 2 children. Like, I don't know why I can't just have somebody to do all those things for me. And I can't just sit around doing what I want to do.
Well, the TV show thing is completely off the chain for me. Like, I can't possibly catch up on all the shows
so
I'm
many
supposed to catch up
shows.
on. I did watch Haunting of Hill House, though.
Whose turn
It's
is
back
it?
to me, I
Yeah,
think.
back to Lauren.
Okay. So I feel like all of mine have this like theme of they're so brutal. My last one is from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in 2003, and it is Andy's death, which he got his leg cut off by Leatherface outside and was taken into the basement of doom and was hung on a hook and just left there to die. And then Jessica Biel's character finds him and tries to get him down and can't, obviously, because he's way too high up and probably a little too heavy for her. And he basically begs her to kill him, and she does it. And I don't know if I could kill you, Steve. I don't know if I could put you out of your misery. I really don't know if I could do that. It's like, I can't imagine my best friend hanging there, me stabbing them, and then like being covered in their blood, just like, fuck, I just had to kill my best friend. Like, another like worst thing I can imagine, like that'd probably be the next thing after like something happening to my kids, my husband or my mom, is like, I don't know if I could kill my best friend.
Yeah, that's a rough.
I don't know. The stakes are pretty high in those movies. Like, he's obviously dying in that film. He's dying.
I just feel like she could have been more of a problem solver.
It's a fruitless effort, honestly. Like,
you wouldn't try to do something.
I couldn't do. I mean, I guess in the moment you do what you got to do, but
I just think like it's easier to watch the movie and be like, there's a lot of shit going on, you know. But like in the moment, I'm sure there's like a rush of emotion, like, you know, like you're describing. But just like cold thinking about logic, watching a horror movie, like there's somebody upstairs about to come down and kill both of them. Like, put him out of his misery. He's not going anywhere. Don't make him suffer. Get yourself out. Save yourself. Like, you know, that's like it's a selfless request to say, you know, it's going to be hard for you, but I want you to live.
Right.
You know, like you staying down here to help me is only going to exponentially increase the chance of you also dying.
I understand all that in this moment, but I just feel like that's...
But in the moment when it happened to us, you just
like...
couldn't kill me.
I guess I could try to kill you, but it would be really difficult.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
But that scene's just awful. Like, even like when she's trying to like lift him off the thing and his like eyes are rolling back, he's like, just stop, like just don't do this anymore. You're not helping. He knows it's not happening, but she's hopeful.
She's amazing in that movie. I love Jessica Biel in that film. She's like such a strong, like, what's great, she's so strong in that film, not just physically strong, like she has like this physical transformation of sorts, not like she doesn't physically change in the movie, but like just her physique and like her clothes and like everything.
There's that scene where she eats the spinach and then she grows big muscles.
Pop-up muscles. I just think that like that character just goes through such a great transformation through that film, like where she really kind of becomes like a great final girl. Like, in my opinion, like people that don't like that movie can disagree with me, but I love that remake, and I actually like it more than the original.
Of course you do.
Same.
You guys are famous to me for thinking that.
I just think that Jessica Biel, like when it gets to that moment, she's trying to save the day for everybody. And, like, you know, I feel like earlier in the film, you don't immediately get that, like, she's capable of it. But she's trying really hard to save this guy. Yeah. Who
she apparently cares more about than Lauren does about you.
Right. No, she couldn't kill me. I would kill her.
I'll fucking kill you.
No, but I don't know. I'm rambling. But the point was that the Mike Vogel character is like, in most films, like you'd say, like he could save everybody. Like he's this strong man who can save the day, you know,
and
gorgeous. And I've seen him in real life, very close. Like I sat with him at multiple days, and he is gorgeous. I did the Grind PA tour with him here in Baltimore. At skate park down in
I understand.
Yeah. But anyway, like, but just how quickly that turns, and like she becomes like this, I'm trying to save you. He knows he can't be saved.
Right.
And like she looks like she just has this like physical presence to her that like switches at that point in the film. And I think that's like great. Just for like the final girl conversation and like just that character in the movie and just that movie overall. And
That would be a good topic. The
final girls. I'll pick. Oh, so it's my turn for my final pick, right? So I kind of was going back and forth between a couple movies that I thought have really, really, really great kills. But the one that I actually went with was the one that kind of stands out most recently in my mind, and that was last year's It. I think the whole opening sequence with the Pennywise killing Georgie was really incredible. For a lot of reasons. I just feel like kind of revisiting like such a great story, such a great... whether you love the miniseries or not, for me it was pretty iconic growing up. I loved Tim Curry as Pennywise. It was a TV miniseries, so like there's cheesiness and it's not great, but I loved it. So there's like a lot of hype around it coming out. There was a really groundswell of people wanting to see it. And there was a lot of talk of like how much the movie changed when it went from Fukunaga writing and directing it to Andy Muschietti, like even though they were working off of Fukunaga's script, which I read a lot before the movie came out to see kind of what direction they were going and kind of keeping more to some of the stuff from the book. And immediately when I saw that opening sequence with Georgie like chasing his boat down the road, I immediately just like sensed a different like kind of vibe to the movie than the miniseries, obviously, because it was like a movie rated R. But I just think that like the introduction to Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise and the kill of Georgie and like how graphic it was. Again, maybe we need to discuss why we like such graphic kills or like such horrible killing children. But I just think that like, you know, the introduction to the character, the performance by Skarsgård in that scene, like the shot of his eyes kind of just going all wonky and like losing track of like the prey he's hunting. Was just like just great, like just chilling, you know, and like just the you know, and like the refocusing on like what his mission is, like when he kind of refocuses and like he starts to drool and like you start to see that like drool come out of his mouth, just like kind of salivating over this meal that he's about to eat. I thought was just great. I just think the set design was awesome. The rain, the woman looking out the front window, and the cat meowing, and like, you know, following back to the same tracking shot of the woman looking again, and kind of just seeing the blood like in the road around the drain, and not. I thought it was just awesome, and like, you know, kind of his arm coming out of the drain to grab him as he's trying to crawl away is just like. I loved it. It was like on my tops last year when we went over our favorite movies. I thought it was great. I can't wait for the next one to come out next year, and I hope he kind of encaps it as well as this one starts it. But yeah, I was very worried about some of the Skarsgård Pennywise stuff from some of the marketing, like some of that weird CG, with that weird like photoshopped marketing that came out before the movie. Like, when he was like looking down the drain.
Yeah, that's a weird.
It was like
shot
really
that
weird.
They even released that
marketing like that wasn't even like in the movie. You know, it's just stupid looking stuff, and like I was like, oh god, I hope it doesn't like come off cheesy like that in the movie. And like immediately you're like, oh no, this is not fucking cheesy.
Yeah.
And like the moment he opens his mouth and like all those fucking like layers of serrated teeth are shown, like it just set up the movie for me, and like I was immediately relieved, and I ended up loving the film, and being able to see a more gruesome Georgie death than what was shown on the miniseries was pretty rewarding. But for loving the book, like she said,
you
two
want
of the
to
books,
see children get killed.
That's what
brutally.
it comes down to.
Sometimes
If there's a child, how do you most brutally kill it?
Exactly. And if they made it on TV back in the 80s, I want to see them do it better now.
Yeah, you got CG,
Punch it
you got an
up.
R rating, budget.
Let's kill the shit out of these kids. Come on.
If there's anything about Steve, he loves a good child murder.
I know
If there's
that.
anything
Yeah.
you need to know about him.
That's it.
My next choice, there were so many different options. I almost am embarrassed this is on my list because it is so down the middle, super iconic kill, probably on all the lists of all the great iconic kills of all time. But I just have to give credit to the chest bursting scene from Alien as like a piece of gore that is super memorable, a famous scene a la
For sure.
the Drew Barrymore scene at the beginning of
Absolutely.
Scream. But it's also in the movie, we all know it now, but seeing that life cycle of the alien played out the way we didn't know yet. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the first time you see that movie, you don't know that it starts off on your face, and then I guess it kind of impregnates you
through your mouth, yeah.
And then there's something inside you that hatches out. Like, seeing that displayed through that character is both, like I said, a really gory, really memorable, really horrifying scene, and a terrible way to go in front of everybody in a brightly lit room where nobody can do a damn thing to help you. And it's like a likable, sciencey guy who, John Hurt played. He wasn't like the strapping lead, and he wasn't like the character who seemed like he was going to become the hero of the thing. But I just think that is such a way to just lay it all on the table. Boy, sounds like a pun, but I did not mean it that way. But I mean, as far as like, no, this movie is going to do some freaky stuff to people, and people cannot stop this thing. Look at what it can do to the human body, and look at how messed up this guy is. So yeah, I think the chest burster scene in Alien, it's got to be one of the best kills.
Last one, Ronald.
Mine is kind of close to that. Thing.
Good.
Defibrillator scene.
Yes.
Man, there's something. So
that's what I thought you were going to say. But
the only reason I didn't is because I feel like I've talked about the Thing so much on this show that it's like John's talking about the Thing again.
Yeah.
So that movie is crazy for a bunch of reasons. Sound design is one of them, and some of it is like that scene has so much yelling in it that it is overwhelming because they're trying to yell to get this guy well, and the defibrillator happens, and then there's yelling after that, and then the monster starts and it's yelling on top of that. It's a very hectic scene.
It's that his ribcage turns into like a mouth and bites his arm. Like, you were maybe thinking it was going to go wrong. You didn't think it was that was going to happen.
It just is one of those scenes that I don't know. I think it's one of the few scenes that sure is it's absurd thing happening, but I know I would have been yelling just like those people were. And I don't see that happen very often. I don't see very many movies where people are yelling at the top of their lungs as something nuts is happening.
Yeah.
It really did. The only two movies I can think of that have a lot of yelling like that, Evil Dead, has so much yelling in it. And this one, The Thing, I related to it on a real weird level because I yell every time something happens.
Well, like the scene in Alien too, it's a well lit room. It's like there's a lot of people standing around trying to do the right thing. It's not like, it doesn't seem like a situation where it's about to go to hell. It seems like the people have control over this situation to some extent, and so
the best reactions, the things happening around them that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's all practical stuff, which makes it look a lot better. It's really cool to watch. It's all really happening in front of them, so it feels a lot more visceral. I think that's why I like it so much. So
the first time I ever watched The Thing was the first time I ever was on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm not like, I love horror movies, but I'm not big into like the sci-fi horror crossover. So I watched it for you guys.
I'm glad you did.
I did.
Glad you did.
One of the other ones that I was like, so the Scream and the Nightmare were like definitely on my list, and I was like going between two for my last pick. So I want to pull a Walker and just throw the one that I was like breaking my heart that I didn't mention. I mean, because again, it's something that we got to experience at Halloween Horror Nights. It was the elevators from Hell scene in Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That is just such like the most. It is like every horror fan's like nightmare coming true. Like that. There's like any number of these things could have been sent to kill that whole group of kids in this movie when you realize what's happening.
Yeah.
And when they go into that control booth and hit the red button and just like everything is unleashed. Every scary thing you've ever had a nightmare about is available.
And so many little satirical jabs at particular horror movies, but creating their own thing with it. And just the Easter eggs of the stuff that's written on the dry erase board, and then you can kind of draw a line between that and stuff you see in that scene. Yeah, that stuff was very clever.
Again, like another like horror film, like talking about Scream in '96, and then Cabin in the Woods, like Drew Goddard, like it's completely like just talking about the horror genre and like just turning it over and saying like this, like look what I'm doing with it now, and in
a different way than Scream did.
They're like it's like a nice companion if you want to look at like is a genre going stale. Well, here's something to shake it up a little bit. Both of those movies kind of qualify that. And yeah, I just like remember watching that movie, loving it, and that scene standing out. And the same year, I think, wasn't it?
No, it was not.
Another year that we went to Horror Nights, they had the Cabin in the Woods house, and they had that sequence where you walk out and the elevator, and it was timed perfectly for when we entered it. Because, you're basically moving this conveyor line of people. But like it hit when we were like right in the middle of these elevators. and the fucking elevator's open, and everything that you could think of just comes out at you to scare you.
It was amazing.
It was like the clown, the girl, the like Hellraiser looking symbiote, or the Cenobite looking thing, and like the werewolf. I mean,
so is it open like Twister? I know it's a little weird reference, but
open like Twister.
You know,
No.
Twister, you kind of go into a space and then
No.
everything's kind of happening around you.
You these are all like houses that are like in the back studio lots. So you're walking through essentially like a walkway that's probably like 5 feet wide for you, and then everything's happening on the side. So like when we walked into this room, it was like lined with elevator doors, and we were, like you said, it was timed really well. So we kind of like were far enough behind the other group that we did not even see anything going back in the elevators or whatever. So when we walked into this room, all these elevator doors just opened and like shit came out at us.
Oh,
So you're just walking through.
it's awesome. So amazing.
That was probably like that probably is my favorite moment at that event that we go to, other than walking into the Elm Street house. Like that, just because that's like, it's like seeing it in real life. That's like a place in my heart that, like seeing the girls jump roping outside and stuff. That was like so amazing for somebody that loves that movie as much. But because I'm not even as big of a fan of Cabin in the Woods as he is, but that was so cool.
Yeah.
sounds like
That is like an event that I can't promote enough. Like, maybe we can get them to sponsor the podcast next year for.
And we could all go.
Yeah.
They could pay for it. We
amazing.
could. What they do in the back lots of Universal, like building these houses, like they're literally building houses inside of productions, like hangars, like they're huge.
Yeah, right.
And you're walking through them, and like some of the rooms you're walking down, and it's just like it's kind of contained and claustrophobic. But some of them you're walking into a scene, like the elevator scene, or like, there's one that we did one year was like some like Gothic cathedral, like.
Churchy
thing where like you're walking through this catwalk and it's built to look like you're in the top level of a church, and like this fucking thing flew in, and it was one of the most scared I've ever been in a haunted house.
Like a gargoyle flew in on a
gargoyle
wire.
like flies in on a wire at you, and like the production is just so impressive. So to get a hold of a property like Cabin in the Woods or like Freddy, but specifically Cabin in the Woods, and like know that that's the scene,
Right.
and like just in our luck, just like hitting it right when those dings, when it dings and then it's all open, it's phenomenal.
That sounds pretty
But in the movie itself, I just think that scene is just the realization of what. That's kind of where they're realizing what is happening to them, and starting to piece together like that any one of those given things could have been what was selected to come and kill their group of friends.
Yeah.
Instead of like the zombie hillbillies that were coming after them. Just an awesome scene. Did you guys have any other ones that just barely got cut? Or
I mean, I had
throw some
something I
love
wanted to
to?
mention, but I know you mentioned you had a couple more, Lauren. Do you want to just
Oh,
go for it? Rattle off a couple?
sure. I already said that the girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre is shooting herself. This one's for Ronald. Evil Dead, all of them. From literally, like, because I was thinking about certain ones that I love from that movie, and I fucking love that movie. And like, they're all so awesome.
But you're talking about the remake,
Yeah, the remake.
not the original.
the remake.
Yes, that's
Which
the
I
one.
love.
Right, that's why I'm saying you'll love this.
I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
Because
Because if it was me,
Yeah.
and you were
You're
saying
sitting
about
across-
loving Evil Dead, I would be
Yeah.
talking about the first one.
He's
However,
the
I,
first
did,
one's
I,
very,
I thought the
very
remake
good.
was very good, though. That was
Yeah.
a solid remake.
I have a friend that doesn't watch horror movies, and she asked if that would be like a good first horror movie, and she was like, I was like, what? How much blood do you want to see on a scale of like 1 to 10? And
or all of it.
I was like, this movie is literally like raining buckets of blood. So, no, you probably shouldn't start with that one. I like Rose McGowan's death in Scream, like her thinking her friends are messing with her, and really she's about to like get strangled by a garage door.
Also, she does a pretty good job of fighting off.
She did.
The what's this, Ghostface?
Ghostface.
Yeah. Jared Padalecki in the House of Wax remake, when he's like getting his like little, like you can see his teeth like all the way back in his cheek and stuff. That's brutal. The scene in Resident Evil with the lasers, when he's like trying to dodge all the lasers, and then finally it comes off and it's just like cubes, and
It's like you're fucked.
Yeah.
and you just see the one little droplet of blood like when he gets lasered.
I thought of that at the same
Diced.
time as I was thinking of the ghost ship death, because it's like anytime someone's like bisected or cut by a
Right,
laser or
right.
a wire and they don't know what's happened to them yet, that's
Yeah.
always horrific.
The only other one I had.
Wow.
Do I have one more? Oh yeah, this is more like of a funny, not really a kill, but the kid who gets like impaled running away in Tucker and Dale vs. Evil when he's just like running and runs right into the tree branch and just is like, I love, what is the line that I love? Like, officer, these kids just came on my property and started killing themselves.
That's a great
fucking
movie.
love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I have though.
I had one kind of duo of what I'm considering sort of the call a lifeline characters in movies, which is when the person's in a bad situation and there's somebody that could help them and you show something bad happen to them, it has real impact. Greta Gerwig's character in House of the Devil, which she gets her head blown off. It's like, you kind of like her. She seems like she's a little bit annoying, but she's like that realistic friend. And the fact that anyone out there knows where this girl is and can come get her, now that's done. And it's like done so decisively and so suddenly. And a very similar death is, I forget the character's name, but Glenn Howerton in The Strangers.
Oh, yeah.
He's the friend who's coming to help, and he's double fucked. I think that's the reason I didn't mention it on my list is because I think I've had this exact description of it before, where it's like you see, like, there's never been a more dead person walking down a hall than this poor guy. But I like that he's like the friend. He's like, I don't know. It's touching that he's actually there to help, and he's like trying to get his boy out of a bad situation or whatever. And it doesn't go well for him. And that it's him killing his friend is another thing that makes that scene particularly horrific. So
it's a rough one.
Did you have anything else you thought about mentioning?
Not really.
All right.
I had two quick 80s, not even like great kills, but they stand out to me. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Deadly Friend.
No.
Wes Craven.
The basketball.
The basketball scene. Chrissy Swanson is like a robot. Like she's a human that dies and gets brought back as like a demonic robot kind of thing.
Okay.
And she like throws a basketball at like a woman's head, and like it just like
It's Anne Ramsey, you know, the mama
Goonies.
from the Goonies, and also from Throw Mama on the Train, Throw Mama off the train,
From the
From
train.
the Train. Throw Mama on the Train. That's the sequel. That's the prequel. Put her back on. It's like, no, this is the story of how she got on the train in the first
So
place.
somebody threw a basketball at her.
But it's like
YouTube
she's
it.
standing
So
there
good.
and she goes like in her inimitable way. And,
it's like a great special
and then
effect
like
cut.
the shot, then Christy Swanson throws the ball and then it cuts back. But it's like it lingers. It could have gotten by with it. Could have moved faster and been a little bit more convincing. But when it cuts back, you see that it's a fake head going. Before it
and like just explodes.
and then it
big time.
completely explodes. That is one. She's a strong robot.
Yeah. Wes Craven also.
Okay.
One deadly
and
friend.
The other one was Maximum Overdrive. Stephen King.
It killed his directorial career.
Yeah, it's the sequence like where it's like at the baseball diamond and the soda machine starts shooting out the soda and like
Yes.
kills the one guy and then hits a kid. The kid falls and then the steamroller rolls over the kid. Again, another child being killed.
Another great example of
by a
overkill
steamroller.
death, though.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, he's dead and he's dead.
Yeah. It's just like soda machine and a steamroller, just
Feel
perfect
bad laughing
combo to
at
kill
that.
kids.
I feel so bad.
It's like
laughing.
Final Destination if it weren't clever. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh man, yeah, those are just like cheesy '80s deaths that like I remember just always thinking about those two.
Also, Jason Voorhees picking someone up in a sleeping bag and banging them on a
Yeah.
tree to kill
That's
them.
a good one.
That's like so brutal and efficient, and
Yeah.
it feels like he's really just saying, you know what I can do? I'm going to see if I can do this. I can. I did it.
Yeah.
It's so weird how some like kid deaths in movies are just like you just said, like not funny, but just like they don't
Yeah.
affect you, and then some like brutally affect you.
Yeah.
What's one that brutally affected you?
Most recently, probably summer of '84. I couldn't sleep. Like I was sick to my stomach at the end of that movie. I feel bad because people might not have seen that one.
Spoiler
yet.
alert,
Spoiler
guys.
alert.
Hereditary did the same thing.
I didn't
to
see
me.
it yet.
Spoiler alert.
No, but I already know something bad happens.
Yeah.
I was debating whether that one. I think that was in
I was gonna
Hereditary.
list
but I'm
that.
just going to say Hereditary. I'm not going to say anything about it. But I was debating whether that was a kill or a death, and I think it's a kill because of the circumstances of the movie. But I don't think you know. I don't think you can really figure that out until
You're
you.
muff, Lauren.
Yeah.
I'll watch it soon. I intend to. Honestly, The Haunting of Hill House kind of like bumped it way out of like the queue.
That good, huh?
Have you not started it yet?
No, I haven't.
I'm only 3
it wouldn't
episodes
let me.
in. Honestly, like,
I was trying to get it on watch over the weekend. It like wouldn't play for
Yeah, I
me.
got like
Really?
a weird message saying
did you
that.
try to like watch it on your computer or something? Like not the TV?
I did not try to watch it on the computer.
You should do that. It's so
I'm gonna
good.
try to check it out.
Mike Flanagan is just this.
Killing it, man.
It's such a mature work from somebody who's done a good job on everything up till this. But I think particularly like the first 5 or 6 episodes of that season of Haunting of Hill House are just like, I mean, it's up there with the prestige television shows that we love. You know, it's up there with those great television shows, and the fact that it's a horror show. And
say a few of the shows you're talking about, just to kind of make sure.
Well, I mean, I'm putting it in the neighborhood of stuff that I love, like Breaking Bad.
There you go.
Yep.
What?
There you
Yep.
go.
Have you finished it? Have you finished it?
Yeah, I finished it.
Okay, so I haven't finished it yet.
What about?
I don't know. I mean, again, it's not like that, but it's like if you're talking about shows that are really well acted and really well written and really well directed, and you feel like you're watching a movie. This is like a 10-hour long movie.
Yeah.
But particularly in the opening stretches where you're getting to know the characters and you're kind of building up to like this event that's going to bring people together, hopefully. I just thought that stuff was so masterfully done. The way that it would like end an episode in that binge model, like, man, you can't not want to watch the next one when one of those ends. Even if your mind's wandering a little bit during the episode, when it gets to the end, you're like, okay, damn, now I see what they're doing. But the way it gets you to know the different characters, Ronald, it's cool because it's got these different siblings and different episodes focus on a different sibling. And so you kind of like, right when you become interested in a person's story, that's like, oh, the next episode's about them. So it's like, I don't know, the way it was structured as a season, I thought was really
It's got like this like Rashomon style of like trying to piece together like what happened in the childhood timeline and what's happening as adults. But yeah, I fucking love that show. I'm like legit like obsessed with it right now.
I love that Henry Thomas has such a. I mean, I always see him in these odd little roles, and I'm wondering why doesn't he do a little bit more? But I thought this was a great role for him. And someone pointed out that like those kids, like the two youngest kids in this, are very like Spielbergian kids, and they were saying like, and it's funny that they're acting opposite like the
guy,
the uber Spielberg kid, you know. And also Henry Thomas as a young Timothy Hutton worked surprisingly well. Like they don't look a lot alike, but there's certain characteristics, and I think their performances were, I think that actors when they're playing the same role, don't you think they do like learn a little bit from each other a little bit?
Absolutely.
But I didn't feel like I was watching two different people the way sometimes they can do. When someone's a little bit older and they cast a different person, and you're like, he's not going to look. Henry Thomas isn't going to look like Timothy Hutton in 20 years, but it works. Like you would rather see that than old age makeup on him for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Especially when you get to the last episode and you see some old age makeup and you realize maybe they were really wise to stay away from old age makeup.
I'm excited to finish it.
No, it's amazing. Like it. I mean,
it's like one of my favorite shows I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I can already tell that
it's one of my favorite like Netflix shows that they've made for sure.
Yeah, I can already tell that from 3 episodes. For like,
it's so well paced, and like what John was saying about like how the first like 4 or 5 episodes really kind of like give a sibling a whole episode to kind of piece out what their takeaway from Hill House was, or like that. And like drops you from one sibling to the next in terms of how the siblings interact with one another. Like their relationships to each other is like what's dictating what sibling we're following in each of the first 4 or 5 episodes, which is just like.
Did you like Oculus? It's kind of like that as far as like back and forth timelines. Like,
yeah, like
I mean, it's clear. Like you can. There's no. I remember Oculus had like a couple moments that were like, I don't want to say confusing, but you couldn't exactly tell what was going on right off the bat. But like this is more clear. Like you get the gist of it a lot faster.
Okay.
Do you think that Mike Flanagan like loves working with these particular actors because he like there's certain ones that have been in like 3 of his things. Like he
most
obviously
of them are like
loves
regulars.
his little team.
Yeah, Carla Gugino, Henry Thomas, Katie Siegel is his wife.
Oh, okay.
The girl who plays Theo.
Was she in Hush?
Oh,
She
yeah,
was in
Hush.
I knew I recognized her
his
from
wife?
something.
Yeah, she was also in Gerald's Game, a small role.
Yeah.
Carla Gugino was in Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
The one girl was in Ouija.
And she was in.
Oh, yeah. I knew
Annabelle
her from
Creation.
something.
Was
Okay.
that him? No, was that him or no? Annabelle Creation.
No.
Okay.
He did Ouija too.
Okay. Her older counterpart was in.
Elizabeth.
Also.
Yeah, Elizabeth
Yeah.
Reeser was in
Yeah.
Ouija. Yeah, he's just like he's definitely.
He's
He's got like a little troop of people that he
Yeah.
kind of keeps.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
and he gives them. I mean, when else has Carla Gugino had that kind of shit
real.
to do? You know,
For real.
like she's like the centerpiece of this show in some ways.
Yeah, and like
her performance.
episode 8 or 9, like she is. It's like her episode, and like, she's amazing in it. She's so good.
Yes.
Yes, that was us boasting about.
You have to
I would say
start
this:
it.
On our
if
kill
anyone out there
episode.
listening is a big fan of the book Haunting of Hill House, this is one of those adaptations that does not try to be an adaptation of the thing. I love the book, and I would love to see Michael Flanagan Michael Flanagan. I'm like his father.
Super proper.
I would like to see Michael J. Flanagan get down here and adapt that book. No, but I would love to see him with this production value and everything actually adapt the book, just because it's so well done. But it's so different. But it's one of those adaptations where you instantly go, you know what? I don't care. Like, I love the book. I would love to see it adapted well. Maybe this means we won't get a real adaptation of that book for another 10, 20 years or something. But based on what he did being so unique, I'm not. It's kind of like The Shining is kind of known to be a pretty bad adaptation, actually, in some ways, of the Stephen King book. But you can't say that makes it a bad movie at all.
Right.
And I love the book and I love the movie, so I think this is a similar case to that.
Cool.
Yeah, so check that out.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can finish it and we can catch up on it.
Yeah.
I think
if you can get your Netflix working.
killed Ronald's energy level at this end of this
done.
episode.
He's done.
I'm pretty tired. But I'm here. I'm present. I had a good time. I did.
As he passes out into the microphone.
Yeah.
Right.
So now we get to think about what our Halloween episode will be next year.
I know.
We'll start a year ahead.
Final Girls, maybe.
Maybe Final Girls. Unless there's like a really good Final Girl movie coming out. Which this week there's a really good Final Girl movie coming out. Halloween 2018. In case you guys weren't sure. I
I think everyone in the room knew.
I don't know, they were like
listening,
looking.
but,
I was like, do they know?
Do you know?
Um,
I'm sure Lauren knows about the new Halloween
she's
movie.
heard of it. She's heard of it.
We're gonna go see it while we're in Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, that's
right.
pretty cool.
That's right.
I do think that we should get some sort of like royalty for this plug. Like we've
the Halloween Horror
talked a
Nights?
lot about it.
Maybe when we post this, we just tag them in everything possible.
Yeah.
Or when we're down there, maybe we just somehow like slip them
Right.
a movie schmovie official card.
Let me tell you what we'll
We need
do.
to print up some official cards.
You
Give me some paper.
Give us tickets and fast
Let's go back
passes.
to 1998 and print out cards.
Yep.
You give us tickets and fast passes. We will live podcast from the event.
Hey,
I'm about
Wow.
that.
And there you go.
there it
Let's
is.
do it.
I'll even pay for my own flight. Whoever orchestrates
She'll even pay for
Halloween
all of our
Horror-
flights.
Sure,
She
you
just
give us
offered.
the free passes. I'll pay.
I'll start driving now.
Let's do
I'll
it.
meet you guys down there. All right, cool. So that was this year's Halloween episode. We're themed, horror themed.
Yes.
Best kills,
Best
favorite kills, kills deluxe, whatever.
kills
whatever you
that
wanna call
killed.
it. Kills that killed. Kids. You can find us at movieshmovie.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called now, Spotify, Google Play. I feel like I say it every time, but if you can leave a review or a star rating, specifically on Apple Podcasts, maybe even on Spotify. Maybe we need to push Spotify more because maybe that's what people are using now. But I would love it if we could get like a benchmark. We got to get like a number we'll pick, and like we'll try to get that number of reviews or star rating by the end of the year. We got to figure that out because for having 225 plus episodes, we don't have very many ratings, guys.
Yeah, we need
Or star ratings that aren't our family members or closest friends.
Right.
Or
Using
ourselves.
different sign-ins.
Yeah, with multiple Apple IDs.
Well, when it's like their ID comes up and it's like Steve's mom, I'm like, come on, Steve's mom, couldn't you have...
So if we could figure that out, we'll do our part. But if you can leave us a review or a rating or something, that'd be great.
So I'll tell you what, everyone listening, if we get like 10 reviews in between this and the next time we record, we'll release some free content.
That's a great idea, John.
Do you like that idea?
I like it. Guaranteed.
We need to talk about that. Off air. I'm
Okay,
not
I
ready.
know.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to give it away for free.
Yeah, okay.
Get into the free
Maybe
stuff.
for 10. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm willing
maybe for
to.
10.
But yeah, I mean, if we start getting reviews on there, maybe we can like read some on the podcast. I don't know what we would love to share people's feedback with anybody else listening. Like if that would entice anybody, like we'd love to share your thoughts on the podcast. So if you can leave us a review,
You can control us like a
On
puppet,
iTunes.
the way Freddie controlled Philip Anderson
Puppet
in Dream
kill,
Warriors.
yep.
Right. You can, if you leave a review, we will read it.
Yep,
That's
that's true.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's what we'll do.
that's what we'll do. So Lauren, when you get home, make sure you leave a review.
I already left you a review.
My name's John, and I'm a big dumbhead, and I have to, 5 stars,
What do I want them to say?
and I have to read that.
But yeah, it would be really, really nice of you if you could leave a review or star rating, and we'll read yours maybe if you leave one.
Yep.
You got anything else, Ronald, before you pass out?
No, I love you guys.
Love you too, man.
Love you too.
And love you too, Lauren.
Love you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on. It's always great.
Thank you.
And as always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.